how many is your hard drive on that thing? I'm sure it's fine.
No, but I wanted to say this before I forgot. One of the things that really was
We're testing. Good morning, everyone. Okay, we're going to get started. Welcome to CONEXPO-CON and our Shop, Talks, and Walks Equipment Maintenance Workshop. I'm Dina Wiesop, Show Director for CONEXPO-CON, and we're so happy to have you here with us this morning. We're excited to kick off the program designed specifically for the people who keep our equipment running, job sites productive, and projects on track. So this workshop is going to go beyond theory. Today is about real-world, hands-on insights, practical strategies you can take back to your operations to reduce downtime, control costs, improve safety, and get more value out of every piece of equipment you have in your fleet. So we're going to start this morning with our breakfast spotlight panel, where we'll focus on how equipment maintenance is evolving, from reactive fixes to proactive, data-driven strategies. You'll hear how technology, real-time data, and smarter systems are helping maintenance teams work more efficiently and turn maintenance into a true competitive advantage. Guiding that conversation is our moderator, John Summers, the construction sector vice president at the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. And joining John are three leaders at the forefront of maintenance technology and innovation: Austin Conti, the CEO and co-founder of Tenna; Alex Kraft, the CEO and founder of Heave; and Luke Powers, the CEO and co-founder of Gearflow. Together, they're going to share insights with us on best practices, emerging technologies, and what the future of equipment maintenance looks like in an increasingly connected job site. After the panel, you're going to head around to the show floor for interactive sessions with leading manufacturers, where you'll see the equipment, tools, and solutions up close. So stay tuned after the panel here for today for specific instructions on where you're going to meet your tour guides and get your VIP rides out onto the show floor. So thank you for being here with us this morning and investing in your teams and your fleets. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to John to get us started.
Thanks, Dana. I think I'm live. We're all live. I was live over there and was trying to swear as much as I normally do. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Welcome to day 5 of CONEXPO-CON 2026. If you've been here for a while, I know you've seen everything because we have 3 million square feet and over 2,000 exhibitors. If you just got here, you really haven't seen anything. But after this, we're going to do some tours, and it's going to be super fun. You're going to hear from experts at some of the equipment OEMs booths. But before we do that, we're going to hear from the experts on stage this morning. So I think maybe I'll introduce myself really quickly, even though Dana just kind of did, but then I'll let these guys each introduce themselves, and then we'll kind of get into the questions. So I'm John Summers. I'm with AEM. So AEM, Association of Equipment Manufacturers, owns and produces CONEXPO-CON. I look after our construction sector, which means I do a little bit of everything and not much of anything. So kind of just responsible for making sure our members, the equipment OEMs, have value, and most importantly in my role, I make sure that the construction industry continues to get more efficient, especially through data, interoperability, technician availability, all of that stuff. So those 3 topics are pretty much what we're going to talk about this morning. So Luke, why don't you
Hey, appreciate you having us here, and it's a great meeting, the whole AEM team. We're excited. It's been a great week. We got here actually a week ago, and my name is Luke Powers. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Gearflow. We're based out of Chicago. Our booth is in the North Hall, but what we do is AI-powered procurement to keep the job sites running. So, yes, this has just been a really good week. I'm really excited to talk about just the future of AI, robotics, and other topics that John mentioned, and looking forward to the conversation.
It's funny you said you got here a week ago, so I saw all 3 of you on Sunday night at a different reception, and I thought it was going to be enough. You're still hanging out with me a week later, so
The whole thing's a time warp, right?
it's really been 6 days. Holy crap!
Good morning, everyone. My name is Austin Conti. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Tenna. We're an equipment fleet operations system. My background personally is in heavy civil construction, and I started a company out of that heavy civil company, understanding kind of the gaps of non-construction specific solutions. So we help maintain their fleets, track their fleets, dispatch their fleets, and keep their fleets safe. So thanks for the time this morning, and I'm looking forward to talking to everybody on stage.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Kraft. I'm the founder and CEO of Heave. We are Uber for field mechanics for heavy equipment. My background, I spent 17 years at a Volvo heavy construction dealer in Florida, where I had a front row seat of frustrated, angry customers over the state of field service. I got my 10,000, 15,000 hours of all the different things that are broken within the service process. That's what gave me the confidence and the desire to design maybe another solution to provide field service quickly. And so we've been at it now for 4 years. We've got a booth in the North Hall. It's our first time as a CONEXPO exhibitor, so it's a big deal for us. And quietly expanded across the country, offering field service for all brands of equipment. Excellent. So I guess as we were just talking, I met you 3 years ago at this event. Austin, I think we probably knew each other for a little bit longer than that, but probably we started talking more around that time. Luke, you and I had potentially too many beers in Cincinnati one night, like 6 years ago, so there was that. But so I knew all. The reason I'm saying this is because I knew you all when you were in your current roles or with your current organizations. But Austin, you mentioned heavy civil. Alex, you worked for a dealer. Luke, you were in the rental space, right? So you were all in the industry, and now you're all founders of newer companies that have been around less than 5 to 10 years, right? So I guess with that said, like, can you just tell us what really motivated you to kind of break off and start this? Alex, let's start with you, because you kind of just touched on this, but maybe just go a little bit deeper into why you were like, okay, I'm out over here, I'm going to start this over here.
Yeah, I think companies and ideas are started from exposure to problems. And so I think that's the most important thing. I think, our industry is not that different from other industries. There's some nuances to it, but, I think there's a disconnect with, from like OEMs, where you probably as an OEM never get to talk to unhappy customers. Like, OEMs probably mostly deal with customers when they come to a factory tour or you're a big customer. And I doubt, I used to go on plenty of those trips too. It's a lot of backslapping. And, when you have to live the problems every day, it's just a different level. And in my experience, like 17 years, I never saw any change. I never saw any really desire to change, or there was just an acceptance of, well, what else are we gonna do? Or there's just, and I don't know, I'm young, maybe foolish and stupid and stubborn, but just for what customers spend, the amount of money that they spend in this space, like that's what you're looking at. This problem hasn't changed. Like, someone will focus on the customer, and I think that's like the most critical thing of leading to the idea is just being exposed to a real problem. Like, I wasn't trying. I didn't have a desire to start a company. I wasn't in search of a problem. Like, I just lived it, like Groundhog Day every day. And so that's what kind of needed.
I think it's a really good point, about this industry, the construction industry, whether it's your startup or your companies or the equipment OEMs, like, they understand the problem and then kind of come up with a solution. They don't come with a solution looking for the problem, right? So I went to the CES, Consumer Electronics Show here 2 months ago, and you walk through, I think they call it the Eureka Park, and it's all the super new technologies, and I talked to some guys, like, we made this sensor and this device, and I'm like, what's it for? He's like, the medical industry? Like, it was a question. It was like, you're creating a solution to something that you don't know is a problem. So, Austin, from your perspective, right, I mean, working heavy civil, you were probably almost even closer to the problem than Alex was at the dealership. So you want to just kind of talk about why you pivoted?
Yeah, so again, my background, construction company, over 100 years in business, and asset management was something we always, were looking to optimize and struggle with, and ultimately sometimes, failures lead to different ideas, and we put a system in, and unfortunately we didn't have to almost track our online what we needed and clean data to power the operational workflows we're looking for. So almost 50% of the units weren't working, and that ultimately led led to us throwing out the original system. So it wasn't a construction-focused product for what we were looking for, which was simply let's get hours and location automated off our machines and power our order system and go from there. So it was just trying to implement something, failing to implement something, and it was okay. Hopefully there's a better way for this, and that kind of sparked the idea for what Tony's been doing for 10 years.
Same question, coming from your background.
Well, I mean, look, I think what this question highlights is where do we start and build from, and what are our first principles? Look, you guys are the ones doing the work. I mean, there's 140,000 people here this week. It's an insane show. It sells out all indoor and outdoor space for a reason. The industry is just incredibly vibrant. Everybody I've talked to in the industry here, you guys, like the pipeline work is just insane for everybody. So congrats. I think there's a lot to do. But to the question of starting a business, so my family business has been in equipment rental since 1976. When GE Industries took a kind of chance with my father-in-law. He took home a little crank up lift. You crank yourself up like 15 feet, crank yourself down. I was at McCormick Place in Chicago. He took it home and sold it. They sent another one. And eventually he started a wholesale rental business, which is where I worked when we met. And so what I learned working for the company is that our revenue and our profit is tied to the uptime of our fleet. That was tied to the productivity of our mechanics. That was tied to them getting the parts when and where they're needed. And we just kind of lived it. They weren't, they had a lot of issues with that. So that's the original pain that was lived. It sounds like we're all, pretty common there. And I looked around, there was really nothing in the market that helped with that to really help our mechanics be more productive, drive uptime to our fleet, agnostic of the brand. And that's where Gearflow started. So, and then, we look at this thing like steps, right? Everything's a workflow. So how does technology improve a workflow or augment, what you're doing every day? And so we were excited to bring that down from 22 steps to 6. We keep going with us. But anyway, that's some of the things I think we'll be talking about today. Is like, how's it actually helping construction? But we hope you all understand we're not talking heads up here. We actually did the work before the company.
Yeah, it's like you knew the next question by saying that's what we're actually going to be talking about, so let's actually talk about it, right? So, I don't know if you said AI when you were just rambling there for a second, but if we didn't, we're what, 15 minutes in and I'm saying AI for the first time? That's longer than normal. But AI, mobile tools, just all emerging tech, that's happening here. It's all around the show, whether you're looking at the heavy iron and tech integrated in that, or you're in one of your booths, no problem there. But what technologies, looking us up a few years, so have really the biggest impact on today's operations, right? So we've heard from the show organizer, we've heard from our attendees, so you all hear and other ones in the past, we don't necessarily want futuristic stuff at the show. It was cool, maybe within 5 years or like that, but we want stuff that's going to impact our business bottom line, on Monday when we go back to work. So let's talk about that, how contractors can evaluate the tools, but what's really having an impact right now.
Yeah, 100%. Because how incredible is it? GDT came out 3 years ago? When was that?
Yeah.
That's it?
2023, 3 years ago.
Yeah. And so it was right last time.
Eating spaghetti like a weirdo, and so.
You'll have to show me that one. So it immediately became a public good. Immediately. It was kind of crazy where, Google, it took them a bit to get into our lexicon. Oh, did you Google it? Just go ahead and Google it. It was immediate, right? And so, but what has that done since? And I think that's where, you guys, there's no time for bullshit, what actually works, right? So if we're in our daily work here, and this is, what we do every day, and now I got a meeting, I got a prompt, GBT or Gemini or Grok or whatever, and that's going to help me, that's great, right? But that's something over here, and then I'm going to come back to my work here. That's probably some of the frustrations as we talk about this. Is yes, it's a public good, it's better than Google for sure in many things, and can help us in our daily life, can help us in our work, but how's it embedded in the workflow? What a beautiful good way to compute is really what it is. The internet is basically a very sophisticated calculator that we all use, and so, but in order to inform this calculator, we have to fill out forms, and we have to do some manual work to have this calculator tell us things about our business. We have to do a whole bunch of input. But with this new way to compute, what's exciting is you just talk into the thing, right? You're just talking to it.
Natural language.
Just right.
Ask it like how you talk.
Right. Typed or spoken, whatever, in whatever language. And when you do that, that, the computer then is going to understand that. It understands that, obviously, right? So then, what does that mean for our workflow? Well, for you and your crews every day, you guys are out there, you guys are in the truck, right? How much work gets done in the truck as a percentage? I don't quite know that, maybe you would know that better than I do, but like, oh my God, the amount of like phone calls and work that gets done in the truck. So I think, you know, at least from where we sit, what a great opportunity to call up, you know, either leave a voice memo or you know, type something or call up an AI bot to give it a command, like, you know, such and such machine went down. So like, give like actual examples, right? It's like, I don't know, my D6 won't start, okay? And so that might mean a few things, like we need a mechanic on site, we might have to get a ship back to a shop, oh, by the way, we might need a rental because we don't have enough money in our fleet, and so we need a few, but this is all happening, you know, so how can AI bring that, you know, recommendations to the forefront of work, like immediately, which takes us a long time internally to kind of coordinate all this stuff, and then externally with the supply side, which is all throughout Vegas right now. But what a cool time. I mean, oh my God, it's just so exciting that you now have this other way to build.
That's right. Austin, any comments on that? Maybe kind of just the tools that are here now?
You know, I'm a huge believer in AI. I think you know, the rate of change with it is just absolutely incredible. We see it in how we build product, how it's implemented in the field. A key thing for us, though, I would say is just more foundational. So I think AI is very powerful, but without clean data, then it's like really smart, messy data. So what we try to do is automate as much data as possible, whether that's through a different telematics feed or just a mobile work order. So I always just like to ask this, but maybe by a show of hands, who has deployed some level of telematics in this fleet? Good amount. How much do you guys think? What do you think the online rate of those tractors are? Is it plus 10% or lower? A lot of shrugs. So the key is like, what can you trust that, right? So quality control, rate of data, uniformity of data. Once you have that, then you can build on all different types of cool tools, whether that's automating your work orders and then getting the return on that, really understanding your true repair and maintenance costs, which we all know is key to how we build our equipment rates and then ultimately bid. And then on top of what kind of Gearflow is doing, Eve as well, how do you then take AI to another level on top of it? But it's all exciting. There's all upside. There's really not a lot of risk to embracing this technology and then seeing how it can better your business.
Alex, thinking you how you think AI or, you know, just maybe just the molding tools, you know, kind of your space that we have here.
No, like I've seen AI applied with both of their companies. It's super impressive. We use it as well. Like I think overall, I've never met a fleet manager that wasn't overwhelmed, and I've never met a fleet manager that didn't want to like throw his phone against the wall because it rings constantly. So like AI, there's so many different ways that AI can help alleviate a lot of that pressure, and you know, it automates certain things and really allow the personnel in the field to maybe take more control over things as opposed to like always being, you know, there are common terms that are used are firefighter or like always reacting to things. So that's where I've seen it applied really, really well. It does that type of a good job.
So Austin, you were talking, you know, clean data in, good info out, right? So that's probably importance number one, but maybe important piece number two is the timeliness of data, right? So I mean, if you get something a week later that says the machine's overheated, you're getting something like that, like, probably too late, right? So just to leveraging the real-time data, how is that really helping, you know, teams translate that data into decisions to reduce downtime and measure our, and drive ROI right now?
Yeah, so I think I'd explore, if you just look at, you know, the topics on maintenance here, if you're automating your 250-hour service, your 500-hour service, that's always creating the trigger to your shop to go do that work. You just kind of start to be really proactive. So the real time is, are you getting, you know, by second, you know, second by second updates or minute or 2 minute updates on what your fleet is doing? You can, you at any time understand that. That's the operational side of it, but how does that operations turn into finance is it all builds on each other, right? So if you really have strong, good repair and maintenance data, then you might be able to reduce that, which is then gonna give you more effective billing rates. So what we're always trying to think about, as you said, we're firefighting in the field, there's always something happening, 20 different phone calls. How do you get ahead of it so you can really improve the billing rates and then get more competitive on units? All those.
Look, I mean, same kind of thing to you, right? I mean, it's kind of like, your system taking in good data, real time, understanding what parts are needed, now versus, planning that maintenance, 2 weeks out or whatever. Right? Because it's a totally different workflow game plan there, right?
It should inform the work. Do you remember when everybody used to say big data? Remember that? That was like a whole thing. I bet you had you were talking to people about that. No one says that anymore, right? It's all about how does that actually inform the work, right? So the data. So Austin's point, inform the work might be from a finance perspective, where the dollars going, where they're being spent, how can we optimize, at probably a macro business owner level. And then to your point, it is our parts recommendations. Can the AI, for example, understand what parts do I order for which machines? Right. By the way, as you know, that same filter, that you're ordering for your Peterbilt might also go to your Mac and Kenworth, etc. The same idea on off-road compatibility of parts, right? So how does it take in this information and then spit back out recommendations that inform the work? Because after all, everybody's looking to hire, which is great. What is a job? It's a collection of tasks that we got to do every day. And so how does technology kind of reduce or automate some of those steps and those tasks so that you can focus on, your guys can focus on the strategic work of the business to grow the company.
But you think about, kind of like somebody does this, like the filter. What's happening isn't really changing, right? And you still need to understand what part is needed because of what fault or what diagnostic trouble code, right? And you still need to be where do I get that from? So a human brain is processing all of this, if you're I guess really slowly, right? So, especially for me, that is slowly. But if you're still going through those steps, then I do this, then I think where's the machine, then where's my dealer, where do I get this part from, then what technician do I have to work on it, right? So by using some of this technology, that's probably done really quickly or
yeah, well, because the steps you just kind of laid out, that is, I need to kind of understand here that I might need to coordinate with somebody in my shop. Maybe that's my shop manager, maybe it's my parts coordinator, that's somebody else. Oh, and then maybe we need approval from management. And it's oh, by the way, we got to send all this to our dealer or dealers. But, all the while, if I'm in the shop or on site, wherever, I'm dead. Right? I'm not productive because of all of these different steps. So, yeah, how can, the visibility throughout really make that more instantaneous, just in the workflow, to your point. So, that's what we do all day, every day is we're in email, we're in all these tools, but how, if a tool is built specifically for these workflows, I mean, man, that's great for everybody involved. That's great for the contractor side, it's great for the vendor side, everybody's coordinating, communicating. And then to my previous example, great. So that should just come almost out of the box for you guys, really out of the box. And then the information that is generated from that so that we'll better understand our buying habits across parts. Well, now how does that inform productivity? Well, now we should be making informed decisions on inventory. So this filter that is used for 3 different trucks, let's maybe buy pallet, right? So we're buying 2 a week, and it's going on these different trucks, there's one of these machines, so it's just like that, right? So our mechanics have it, we get a lower cost per unit, and we're driving productivity.
I love the parts availability analogy, right? Because you think about where Amazon has warehouses and where people buy specific things from. Like the Amazon warehouse, in Florida probably isn't stocking winter coats and gloves, right? So it's but in Wisconsin, just out for me, there's way too many of those there because the weather is garbage. But all of that, and understanding a dealer, and understanding the customers in your area, and then understanding what you should probably have in stock and available, because we talk about downtime, right? And the downtime is the job site killer, but there's down for multiple reasons. It is unplanned, unexpected, something happens, and then time to turn that unexpected trigger into getting the parts, getting the technician, make it actually actionable is taking way too long in a lot of scenarios right now. So, okay, let's skip a little bit forward here. So, Alex, something happens, trigger, part availability, how is that automated, kind of going into, I'll say you specifically, but maybe just from the technician, whole workflow and getting somebody out there?
So here's how I'm talking about it. we talk about, so like the theme was like the future of maintenance, tech forward maintenance. And I have a different take on it, maybe than what people would expect. I hear the term predictive maintenance a lot, and I can tell you that that is not it in my opinion. It's something that sounds great in theory to me, where it's like, oh, but if we could understand what might fail later on, we can address it now, and it's not as big of an issue. Sounds great in theory. The problem is that you need someone to turn the wrench. And the core problem that has existed for a long time is that customers were waiting a long time to get technicians. And so predictive maintenance to me just means that we're going to move up the work. But if there's not a lot of people to do the work, you're still in the same problem. And so the future of maintenance to me is decentralized maintenance, where the customer has a machine that needs repair. It goes out to a large group of technicians immediately who can respond right now. Because I think, if you ask the customer, like, hey, if you had an unplanned event, but you could get a technician on site today, they would forget about AI. They would not care about any of this. And so I think, to me, that's the future, is just providing an experience where customers can get technicians. To me, decentralized, brand agnostic. This industry has operated for such a long time where everything has been gated, everything has been captive, and that penalizes the customer. I'm sure like 20 or 30 years ago, it was much more likely to find a customer who was just a cat customer. I am the wool, I'm a John Deere customer. I don't come across many of those anymore for a variety of reasons. And so if you own 5 brands or 7 brands, that's 5 different people that you have to get service from. And so to me, it's, you have to strip it all away, and it becomes decentralized, using technology to connect those parties quickly, and that is the ultimate experience.
So you can almost relate it to, when your intro, you kind of said the Uber for technicians. So let's actually talk about Uber for a second, right? So if I'm down the strip and it's, after midnight, I'm like, hey, I need to get back to my hotel. I'm thinking, who is picking me up the fastest? I don't care necessarily what kind of car they're driving. I don't care who the person is, right? So is that, we're way off script here, guys. This is actually a really fun conversation. Do you think that matters, right? Because contractors want uptime. They want parts availability like now. They will go through the process with Q3, right? They want the data to tell them what's happening and what they should take action on. They want parts availability and they want somebody to fix it, right? So like for me being, down in MGM and trying to get back here, I'm like Uber app, Lyft app, who's faster, person's in a Toyota Corolla or a Ford Explorer, I don't give a shit, get here and pick me up, right? So Alex, from your perspective, is the technician service performer becoming more, I hate to use the word commoditized, but is it
No.
okay.
And so to me, that's where industries have nuances. Marketplaces function, the dynamics are similar, but you use the word, right? So Uber is a commodity. I get the same experience regardless of whether it was Uber XL or Uber Premium or whatever.
We're still gonna get from point A to B.
Correct. But with technicians, it's a highly specialized skill, right? And so the way we've built it is being able for the technicians to showcase those specific skills. And so if I have we work on a variety of brands of equipment. We work on cranes, on generators, on earth moving. So, but the customer gets to see, okay, if I have a Cat B3, then I would feel maybe more comfortable if it's someone who spent years at a Cat, right? So it's not commoditized, but it's just opening it up to a wider network. It's a lot of maintenance is unplanned, right? And that's what this allows, is that as demand increases, the supply is there and accessible. And that's, this is happening in every other industry, right? It's happened in transportation, home services. It was just a matter of time for it to reach this industry. And that's where you have, lower supply, but high demand, right?
I think that's a good point on the quality, right? So with the Uber example, yeah, I want the fastest driver, but I still have trust that Uber and Lyft have qualified this person at their cities, right? Sometimes it doesn't work out, right? But again, what you're doing, you can have a distributed network, but if there's trust in the one who's managing to say there is a minimum qualification to perform, yeah, then you're gonna move even faster. So,
And they self-regulate, right? So the beautiful thing about like having ratings and reviews, and there is a self-policing, and it creates an environment where the cream rises to the top, right? And that's ultimately what you want.
That's a really good point. I didn't really think about that. I mean, so it's like I gotta get from point A to B, right? I'm still going to a reputable app to do that. I'm not just going to random strangers like, hey, need a ride, get in the back of my van.
now, I driven some Uber driver's car once, so I have that's a different story.
Different panel.
Go ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. You still gotta go to that reputable source. Like I said, I kind of made an unfunny joke that we're off script. We really don't have a script, right? So I think we have like 5 questions here, but Alex, that was the answer I was hoping we were going to get because there still needs to be somebody that has experience in it. I mean, I don't know how to, work on a dozer, right? So like, hopefully, my name's not there. I have 1 star. But like, you still need to understand those person's history. They still need to know. They still need to be a qualified technician, right? And understand that. So I think, but opening or like widening that pool where the top of the funnel is bigger is parts. Same kind of thing, right? What people want.
I think what Alex mentioned, what Uber did, what very similar, is aggregation of supply and then visibility into the performance, which makes it pretty instant.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just going to be, it's not A to B, it's more obviously technical. And then for us, so, think about, again, walking around here, just the amount of OEMs, all those OEMs have dealers. If you are working in more than one state, you have a different dealer for that brand. And then I think we talked about 5 to 7 brands, so pretend you're in 5 or 6 states and just continue to do the math, right? That's a lot of people you need to coordinate with at each branch to keep your fleet running, right? And to depend on you to work, which is great. Similar to what Alex was talking about, aggregation of supply side, is the ability to add these people you depend on to a platform, right? It just makes it easier to coordinate not only internally on your job, but also with them. And this is something we released at CONEXPO-CON, which you haven't provided yet, so you wouldn't know. But,
They left.
but we've gone upstream from where parts is downstream of this, right? It's very obviously vitally important to your shop, it's vitally important to your field mechanics and the whole maintenance team. But upstream from that, the main categories of procurement that fleets need to do all day, every day: parts, service, mobilization, and equipment. So owned or rented, right? And those workflows are very similar. And again, to your question, you have many rental companies you depend on in many different states. Service, kind of same idea. If you're not using Heath, which it sounds like it should. And then what else? And that's the mobilization side. And then you've got all these drivers, right? Because you're in 5 different states and you need to coordinate with these drivers. So anyway, so that's it, but it's got to fit for your workflow. Like it's got, where I don't know, like Uber is very, it's very generalized because it can be. I think building in this industry and having come from it and lived it is extremely important to building it. So it's actually usable. Time to value is like a week to 30 days, not this big long process.
That's a great point. I mean, there's so much technology out there right now, but construction has so many nuances to it. So when you're evaluating or looking at things like construction specific, you want to solve not for the general application, you want to solve for the small details that are going to matter to you most. And I think that's what we've seen kind of across the industry. And if it does work, then it can really impact the business. If it doesn't, then you won't get the ROI, which is so important.
Then we kind of just did the conversation kind of full circle there, right? Because what you were just touching on was, you know, the coordination, most of the time it's in somebody's head, making a phone call, text, email, whatever it is, whatever that process is. So basically automating that or creating triggers that can automate pieces of that are super important, right? So again, I'm going to ask a question that's not planned, and then we have one more question, and then we're going to take audience questions. So get ready. So Austin, with that, I mean, with Tenna and your hardware and your software pulling in a bunch of different information, right? That like, what piece of it do you think you're able to provide an automation or create a trigger for?
So on the maintenance side, it's all your PMs, right? And that's kind of hours and miles. But where we're actually taking our innovations is really the billing rules to the job site. So if a piece is transporting, you might have a certain rate for that. If you have a standby rate, it's going to trigger that. So you can basically geofence the job sites, and as the equipment gets there, depending on how you set up the switchboard of rates and rules for the equipment, it will trigger that with antenna and then push back to the ERP. So I think a big thing is there's a lot of operational solutions out there that aren't becoming more of the financial side, and that's all stuck in the accounting systems. And the accounting systems are not user-friendly for the field. So we're looking to be, you know, from an automation and trigger standpoint, the accounting systems are ERP's best friend, and they will long-winded answer.
Yeah, very good. So okay, so really quickly, I'm just going to go right down the line here, so Luke here first. So looking ahead 3 to 5 years, what advancements do you believe most modern will transform equipment maintenance? Right. So is there something that we talked about what's happening right now, right? I made the point of like this show is like what's going to impact you right now, but maybe 3 to 5 years out, what is something? It could be hardware, it could be sensor, it could be a more advanced AI, it could be technician ability. What's like one thing really quick hit that you think it'll even
On the maintenance side, yeah, I think that what's happening is pretty important to hear what Alex is doing, and he's doing the work of aggregating supply side. I think the workflow is important, like I talked about, and then finance, like Austin's talked about. You know, I don't know how this would fit on the maintenance side. I do find it really exciting when technologies come out. You know, they get, in what looks like implausible or maybe stupid at the beginning, it becomes obvious if something executes and the technology really holds. So robotics were the beginning of it, AI was still the beginning of it. And so in 3 years, in 29, when we're sitting here and you've got a longer period, then like, how do those two things come together and, you know, and improve our job site? So if I'm really thinking about like construction, I'm thinking about the job site. Maintenance, I'm probably less, I have less of an opinion than maybe Alex might, but that's just kind of
Austin, go.
I think building on Luke, I think AI is accelerating the rate of robotics to a new level. So 5 to 10 years out, I think we might have a lot of technicians that are fixing the robots, right? So you're still going to have machines, but you might, and there's still be the same amount of work and labor, but the skill set may not be changing the filter. It might be actually, you know, configuring the next, you know, learning tool for the robot.
Just really quick.
I would say AI can really help with diagnostics, maybe helping technicians get to the heart of the matter faster. I think that's going to be important. It's going to be a marriage of technology and humans. And then the other thing that I would say is data. So we've always had data, but it needs to be in a format that actually can be used. And I know like Tenna has done a really good job with this, and I know and we'll be doing it as well, but like we've had telematics for forever. And like everything requires so much work to the customer. Like you're handing them PDFs or whatever, and they have to then read everything and then figure out what to do. And so I think part of the advancements with maintenance is getting the data to the customer where they don't have to spend a ton of time digesting and then figure out what to do. It will be key. I think Luke says things a lot more professionally that I do, like he said, inform the work. It's much more professional, but yeah, like, there's nothing like handing, I used to hand a customer like a 60-page Matrice report, and they're just like, I'm gonna throw this in the trash. So I think that's an important part of it.
Interesting. So I know I'm not here to ask myself questions, but I'll answer this one. I think interoperability of everything, whether that's data flowing between two different brands of systems, multiple systems, also we get into robotics, and that's machine-to-machine communication on the site, and plan interoperability and all of that. I think that's going to accelerate a lot. So, okay, if anybody has a question, otherwise I have a question for the audience, and that is, what do you all see out there that you don't think there's a solution for today that you would like to see? So either you can ask us a question or answer my question. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's really dovetailing into what you guys are already talking about. You know, thankfully we get to work with Tenna. We do use your platform. It's fantastic. And one thing that I am working on now, you know, in a lot of these software packages, you have all these reports that can be generated. Fantastic. But what I would like to see now, since there's a whole list of these templated reports that can be done, would be the next step in using AI to really take all of that data from these reports and generate something that is more specific, that is identifying things that would take hours to really deduce from these reports, but really just, hey, AI is automatically doing that and saying, hey, these are where you need to focus based on all of this data that's being generated by the system, whether it's utilization, safety, maintenance, anything, right? If you can speak to that, maybe where that's going or where you see that going.
I'll just repeat that really quickly. So you have a bunch of different reports and you would like to create like executive summaries for different individuals, whether that's like your CEO, your safety manager, your job site foreman, whatever that would be. And it might be pieces from 5 to 40 of those different reports, but not the whole thing.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. So I think there's been a trend of just baseline reporting and Power BI, and then AI is now going on top of that, and that's where I think all of us are investing. So, but what I think is important about it is that AI engine should sit on specific data, right? So you shouldn't just dump that information into Claude or ChatGPT. Look for your providers to do that and actually put that AI engine within the system. And that's where we're investing right now, is putting AI on top of our reporting suite. But we have to be doing that because that's where everybody's going. If you're not doing that, you'll fall behind. Thank you. Yep.
No comment. Good hat. We have one more. I'm being told no. Go really fast. Yep.
For Alex, most, I'm guessing you use a lot of independent techs, but we're seeing a lot of older techs retire, and COVID took out a lot of them. What are we doing to, try and bring in young techs?
So I have very specific thoughts on this. I think, so I've heard since I started in 2004, I was working for a dealer, people told me how no one wanted to be a tech, and I thought about it a lot, and I think it's in complete sense. No one wants to be a tech and make $32 an hour and work outside for 12 hours in Florida, Texas, Louisiana, in the hot sun. And I think that's the problem with the legacy model. And so, yes, we work with independent techs. Most of them used to work at a dealership. And then one of the main reasons why they leave is they can triple their income. And so my thought on it, my hope, as we gain more momentum and more significance, it becomes people can look to it and say, oh, that is a real career path where I can make over $200,000 a year without college debt. You can't do that in the legacy setup today. And we had three technicians in 2025 make over $400,000 last year. When that story becomes more prominent, I'm pretty confident that people will enter that workforce and pursue that path. But I equate it also to software engineers. Like, we all employ software engineers. In the last however many years, there's been a huge spike of people entering the software engineering career path. Why is that? There's high demand, and I don't pay a software engineer $30 an hour. I pay they're the highest paid employees in our company. And so I think if technicians and young people can see this is a real path to make real money, it will become a lot more attractive. And that has not been the case.
Okay, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Have a good time. Let's give a round of applause to our guys up here.
Good morning, thank you everyone. I just have a few quick directions to help get you on your way to your in-booth activations. So your wristband that you got when you checked in, that is your group for the rest of the activations, and you will be following a guide that also has that group. They have a large lollipop sign that we will see out in the lobby or down in the atrium.